Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty startling about generative AI. We're talking huge sums of money, right? Tens of billions globally. The estimates are around $30 to $40 billion being poured in. But here's the kicker. Despite all that cash, something like 95% of organizations, they're seeing, well, basically no measurable commercial return on their AI projects. So you have to ask, where's all that money going? And, why isn't it actually paying off for businesses?
That disconnect, that huge gap, is exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at this MIT Media Lab Project Nanda report, The Gen AI Divide, State of AI in Business 2025. It just came out in July. And it's not just about how well the tech performs on paper. It really uncovers this deep, almost alarming disconnect in how AI is actually landing in the real world of business.
Okay, so our mission for you listening is pretty clear then. We're going to unpack this generative AI divide. What is it exactly? Why is it happening? And crucially, we'll get into the surprising ways the few successful companies are managing to bridge that gap. Think of this as your shortcut to really understanding what's going on with AI right now. It's critical stuff. All right, let's dive straight into the report's, well, frankly, most shocking finding. You mentioned the $30–40 billion investment, and then 95% of organizations seeing no measurable commercial return, zero tangible ROI for almost everyone. But then you have this tiny slice, just 5% of AI pilot projects that did work. And they didn't just work a little, they generated millions in value. The contrast is, well, it's stark. Almost hard to believe.
It really is stark. And that huge difference, that chasm between, loads of companies trying AI and almost none getting measurable results back, that's what the report labels the Gen AI divide. And it's not just a small problem like a few teething issues. It points to something fundamentally broken in how AI is being rolled out in businesses right now. It really shows that just throwing money at AI, that's not the answer. It's how you do it that makes all the difference.
Yeah, that's a huge statement. So if the technology itself can deliver value, like we've seen that successful 5%, where does the report say the problem actually lies? What's the core issue if it's not, the AI models themselves?
This is where it gets really interesting because the report kind of cuts through the usual excuses. It says, look, the problem isn't really lack of infrastructure. It's not regulatory nightmares or even, the talent shortage we hear so much about. The real problem, the core insight, is something they call the learning divide. What that means is these big enterprise AI systems, they consistently fail to learn from how people actually use them, from the feedback they get. They don't grasp the specific context of the business situations they're put in, and critically, they just don't improve over time based on that experience. They stay static.
So it's like they have the raw processing power, but no ability to learn on the job.
Yeah.
No street smarts for the specific company. How does that actually show up day to day? What's a common way businesses might see this learning divide without maybe realizing what it is?
Well, it often shows up as AI tools that feel really rigid. They can't easily adapt to how people already work. They struggle to learn the nuances of that particular company's operations. And so ultimately, they just feel disconnected. They don't integrate smoothly into the daily flow. It's like hiring a genius who refuses to learn the company culture or processes. Aditya Chalapali, who leads the Connected AI group at MIT Media Lab, puts it very directly. He says, and I quote, "The problem is not the performance of the AI models themselves, but the learning gap between the tools and the organization." That really nails it. The AI needs to learn with the organization. It needs to become part of its evolving system.
And the difficulty shows up in the deployment numbers too, right?
Absolutely. The data backs this up. While maybe 60% of businesses even bother to evaluate enterprise AI systems, only about 20% actually get to the pilot stage. Just 1 in 5.
Wow, in deployment.
That successful deployment to production, that's a tiny 5% we talked about. It's a massive drop-off. And there's a time factor, too. Medium businesses might go from pilot to deployment in around 90 days. But for large enterprises, it often takes 9 months, sometimes even longer. That learning curve, the integration challenge, is just huge, and most don't make it across.
Okay, so while these big official enterprise systems are struggling to learn and integrate, what are employees doing in the meantime? Just waiting around? Because that leads to this other really fascinating, maybe slightly worrying trend the report found, the shadow AI economy. Get this. Only about 40% of companies are officially buying things like ChatGPT or Claude subscriptions for their teams. But over 90% of employees, they're using these tools anyway, on their personal accounts, for work tasks. It's this huge, unofficial wave of AI use happening under the radar.
Yeah, and it's happening because those personal tools are just so flexible and easy to use.
Right.
They let individuals quickly get small wins, generate ideas, draft emails, whatever it is. They can bypass the sometimes slow, rigid corporate processes and just get stuff done. It's a workaround, basically, born out of frustration.
But there's a big but here, isn't there? A kind of paradox. Because while those personal tools are great for, say, brainstorming or a quick first draft, they don't have memory. They don't learn your context over time. You can't really customize them deeply or integrate them into wider company systems for those critical long-term processes. So you've got this split. Shadow AI used by almost everyone, super flexible, gives quick personal wins. And then enterprise AI officially bought by less than half, often rigid, 95%, showing no measurable business impact and struggling with that learning piece.
Exactly. They're almost two different worlds operating in parallel, and sometimes they're even pulling in opposite directions. And this disconnect, this struggle to get value from official systems, seems to be leading to some, well, questionable investment choices. The report points out a really significant misallocation of resources. Over half, more than 50% of all the Gen AI budget, it's going into sales and marketing tools. That's where companies seem to think the biggest, quickest wins are.
Right, the flashy stuff, the
Yeah.
customer-facing things. But here's the counterintuitive bit from the report. The highest actual return on investment. It's not coming from sales marketing. It's coming from back-end automation. We're talking about using AI for things like reducing costs and business process outsourcing, BPO, cutting down on expensive external consultants, just making core operations run way more efficiently. This may be less glamorous, but that's where the report says the real financial value is being generated. Why do you think so many companies are getting this wrong? Focusing on the front end.
Well, I think many are still stuck in the mindset that AI is primarily for, creating new content or interacting with customers. They're chasing top-line growth or very visible signs of innovation. They often overlook the massive potential for savings and efficiency gains in those less visible back-end processes that actually drive the bottom line. The report also tried to quantify this broader impact using an AI market disruption index. It's a scale from 0 to 5. Basically, below 1.0 means it's mostly just early experiments happening. But once you hit 2.0, it means real measurable changes and restructuring are taking place in that industry.
And looking at that index, the difference across industries is pretty striking, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got technology hitting 2.0 and media and telecom at 1.5. These are the places where you're seeing real shifts, new competitors popping up, work actually changing, AI native content emerging, even ad models getting rejigged, like real disruption.
Exactly. But then you look everywhere else, professional services, healthcare, finance, manufacturing, retail, energy, all those sectors, they're stuck down at a low disruption index of 0.5.
0.5. So lots of talk, lots of pilots maybe.
Lots of experimentation, yes, but no deep structural changes yet. In those industries, AI is mostly being used for basic efficiency gains. Things like logging documents, maybe transcribing meetings, some simple customer service tasks. It's incremental improvements, not fundamental transformation.
Okay, so we're seeing these efficiency gains, even if they're incremental in many places. That naturally brings up the big question about jobs. People worry, right? AI taking over. What does the report say about the actual impact on employment so far? It seems to clarify that AI's main impact isn't so much on, core internal jobs leading to mass layoffs. It's more hitting non-core activities, customer service ops, admin tasks, some standardized development work, and interestingly, it's significantly replacing external outsourcing contracts. Though it did note that executives in tech and media, those high disruption sectors, do expect less hiring in the next couple of years. About 80% of them said that. So maybe fewer new jobs, not necessarily huge cuts to existing ones.
That seems to be the nuance, yes. It's more about shifting how work is sourced and potentially slowing down hiring in certain areas. But tied into this whole human versus AI thing, there's another really crucial finding in the report regarding trust. Get this. 90% of users still trust their human colleagues more than AI for critical tasks. 9 out of 10.
Wow, that high,
Yeah.
even with all the advancements.
That high. And it's not just about, current AI limitations. It suggests something deeper. It implies that even as AI gets incredibly powerful, there's this enduring, perhaps irreplaceable role for human judgment, for that gut feeling, for trust built between people, especially when the stakes are high. It really makes you think about the future of work. It won't just be about what AI can technically do, but what we humans trust it to do and what we prefer to keep in human hands. That fundamentally shapes things.
Okay, this is fascinating, but also a bit daunting for businesses maybe feeling stuck on that 95% side of the divide. Let's pivot to solutions. Let's bring some hope here. What about that successful 5%? What are they doing right? What are the common threads the report found among the companies actually making Gen AI work? You mentioned they have a sharp focus on specific pain points, they execute well, and they partner smartly. They're not just buying AI off the shelf and hoping for the best.
Exactly. They're very targeted. And the report pulls out several key strategies for actually overcoming this Gen AI divide. First up is process-oriented customization. It's about designing the AI solution around your specific business workflow, not just trying to shoehorn a generic model into place.
So tailoring it really tightly.
Precisely. Less spray and pray, much more surgical. Second is building in continuous learning and feedback mechanisms. This directly tackles that learning divide. You need systems where the AI actually can learn from context, learn from users, and optimize its decisions over time. The goal is for the AI to get smarter within your organization, not just be smart in a vacuum.
Making it a learning partner, not just a static tool. Okay, what about how they get these solutions? Build versus buy. The report had a strong take on that, right?
It did, a very strong take. Strategy number 3 is prioritizing external solutions. This one might surprise some people. The success rates are really telling. Buying or licensing an external solution, that has a 67% success rate in the study.
2/3 success rate. Patty.
Trying to build it all internally from scratch, only a 33% success rate.
Wow, half the success rate.
Yeah. It strongly suggests that for most companies, collaborating with expert vendors or leveraging open source communities is a much better bet than trying to reinvent the wheel internally. It's about recognizing where the expertise lies.
That's a really practical insight. Definitely requires maybe checking some internal ego at the door. What else are the winners doing?
Well, they also focus heavily on cross-departmental collaboration and governance. This is key. It means the business managers, the people who actually understand the processes and needs, they lead the AI projects. IT provides the technical support and guardrails, but the business side is in the driver's seat. This ensures the goals are aligned with actual business value and the risks are properly managed from a business perspective. And alongside that, number 5 is clear performance metrics and risk management. You need clear KPIs for ROI, for compliance, for security, and you need to review them constantly and be willing to adjust the project scope based on performance. It's about accountability.
Right, not just launching and forgetting. And that shadow AI, we talked about the unofficial use. How do the smart companies handle that? Ignore it. Shut it down.
No, they actually do the opposite. Strategy 6 is recognizing and leveraging shadow AI. Instead of seeing it as a problem, they analyze how employees are using these personal tools informally. What are they finding valuable? Then they take those insights and feed them back into the official enterprise strategy. They learn from the ground up, turn that informal use into a source of ideas.
That's clever, turning a potential risk into an R&D channel.
Exactly. And then linking back to the investment point, strategy 7 is reallocating AI budgets, shifting resources away from maybe lower ROI areas like generic sales and marketing tools and towards those high ROI opportunities in back-end automation and operational efficiency. And finally, the overarching strategy is building a learning organization. This is broader. It's about fostering a company culture that is adaptable, that embraces learning alongside these new tools, that sees AI integration as an ongoing process, not a one-off project.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a holistic approach. So
Yeah.
This report comes out in July 2025.
Mm-hmm.
What was the immediate reaction? Did the market notice?
Oh, and notice, when the report hit the news in August, it definitely caused some ripples, maybe more than ripples. It triggered some significant volatility, particularly in tech stocks. The S&P 500 dipped, NASDAQ took a hit, and key players like NVIDIA and TSMC ADR saw declines as well.
So investors got spooked by the reality check.
It seems like it. And, it connects to a wider feeling that maybe things had gotten a bit overheated. It's worth remembering that even OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, had publicly acknowledged something of a bubble in the AI market before this. This report, with its hard data on the lack of ROI, kind of poured some cold water on the hype. It suggested maybe some investor excitement, and those sky-high startup valuations needed a dose of reality. So if we boil it all down, the fundamental message from this MIT report is pretty clear. The biggest hurdle right now in getting value from AI, it isn't really the technology itself. The models are powerful. They're getting better all the time. The real challenge lies within the organization. It's about the company's ability to learn, to adapt, to integrate these tools effectively, and crucially, to bridge that learning divide between the AI and the business context. That's where the potential of generative AI gets unlocked, when the tools in the organization learn together.
So thinking about that, knowing that most employees are already using AI tools personally, informally, And knowing now where the report says the biggest returns actually are in that back-end automation, it leaves you with a question, doesn't it? How might you listening rethink your own approach? Whether it's just in your personal workflow or thinking bigger picture within your organization, how can you consciously try to turn all that AI potential into real, tangible value, bridging that divide yourself? Something to chew on.